Clemson football is going to have a great 2024 season, but it's going to be a tough one. Going to be good, going to be tough.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I am your host. You can follow me over on X right here at I am John Bivens. Hey, I am a credentialed media member for Clemson Sports, where I go to different football, baseball, basketball games, work in the press conference, that kind of stuff. So I'm bringing you all that kind of information. I'm a lifelong fan. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. And we are part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today is Monday, May 13th. I hope all of you had an amazing Mother's Day weekend. To all the mothers listening, happy Mother's Day. We really appreciate everything you do for your families. But today's episode, we're going to go through Clemson's football schedule for this upcoming season. 24/7 Sports also put out over the weekend their toughest schedules, the top 15 toughest schedules in all of college football. We're going to break those down, and we're also going to end this with our weekly Monday Momentum Monday. So what's going to happen? What's the momentum of Clemson sports right now? We're going to talk about all that and so much more on today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. And so, hey, today we're excited. I know some of you are like, we talk a lot about football. Yeah, we do. We do. We love some Clemson football around here. We talk about other sports, but some of you are like, yo, it's middle of May. Why are we spending so much time in football? Because we love it. That's what we're here. That's why we do this. That's what we're doing. But we are just under 16 weeks. Saturday was officially 16 weeks away from our opening day and kickoff, which sounds like a long time. It's really not. It's really not that far. We've got a lot of things to break up our time. We've got all the College World Series and the college playoffs for baseball going to happen. That Clemson's probably going to be hosting a regional. We've got softball regionals kicking off this weekend. There's some stuff to build our time with, So we're going to talk about it throughout now and then. Hey, if you're an everyday listener, you heard our stuff last week talking through our positional breakdowns. We talked through Clemson's positional groups and how we feel about them overall. We talked about our quarterbacks and Cade leading the way. Talked about Phil Moffa on our running backs. Talked about Bryant Wesco and our wide receivers. We also walked through and talked through our defense. Talked about those 5 players to lead the way, and walked through all of that and so much more. If you missed those, go listen to those episodes free wherever you listen to your podcast and YouTube at. And as now, between now and the season starts, we're going to break through those positional needs more, break through individual players and what we need from specific players and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be great. But today, we thought it would be really fun to come through and break down our schedule. Clemson's football schedule is released. We're going to go through and we're going to do our early predictions for how they turn out, what they go in those games. We will do an updated prediction when we get closer to football season, closer to kickoff. But for now, we're going to go through. And we're going to go through those predictions. We're going to go through those schedules. We're going to go through our Clemson schedule and make our predictions. So we start off the season with a very, very welcome game, a warm-up game where kind of get our feet wet, easy opponent. You know, we start off pretty simple with none other than the Georgia Bulldogs. Been to 2 out of the last 3, won 2 out of the last 3 national champions. So just, cakewalk, right? No, we start off hard, right? Our first game is August 31st in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta against Georgia at a neutral site. But it's going to be great. We're excited about that game. Overall, the breakdown for that game is it's really hard. This game is a winnable game for Clemson football. It is a winnable game if what we need to see over the offseason, that progression throughout the offseason happens. If Cade Klubnik progressed a lot. If Phil Moffa gets some help at running back and Phil Moffa takes over. If our receivers are going to catch the ball and play well this year. If our defense is going to be the best defense in the nation that we're expecting. If all those things happen, this game, it isn't easy, but it's a winnable game. You can't mark it up as an L. If those things don't happen, it's not going to be pretty. If those don't happen, it's not going to go real well for the Clemson Tigers. And so as we're making a prediction for this game, it's kind of one of those you're like, I don't know which way to go. Am I going to be faithful and say that everything clicks and everything goes our way? Am I going to say maybe we'll see some progression, but maybe not? Am I going to go an L? So how we decided to predict this is we are putting it as an L for now. And the reason we are predicting us to lose is not because we don't think we can win this. It's because if everything goes our way, Georgia still has an amazing football team that could beat us if we're playing the top of our game. So if we play the top of our game, everybody shows up, and Georgia plays their football, it's going to be a neck and neck game. It's going to be one that's back and forth, goes down to the wire. Still toss up over win or loss. That's if Clemson progresses and does everything we need to see him to do. If they don't do those things, if defense slacks, if Cade Klubnik needs time to develop more into who he is, if Phil Maffa needs a little bit more time to develop into that RB1 role, if our receivers don't show up, there's so many question marks. If Coach Matt Luke doesn't do a lot with offensive line, if there's so many question marks, if any of those things don't go how we predict it will, it's not going to be close. So we're going to say we start off 0-1, not because we don't think we can win that game, but simply because we need to see a lot before we put that down as a win. So we're saying 0-1 against Georgia. Then we go to Appalachia, or we play at home against App State. App State's a good team. It's not that isn't an easy market as a dub. That's still a tough game. I think we win that game though. I think that's first home game of the season at Clemson. I think that's going to be a game where we start to see some excitement build. We see our players playing to their potential. Then after that, we have an open day. Our week 3, September 14th, we don't have an opponent that week. Usually, I'm not a fan with the early opening weekend. I'm usually not a fan with the early open day or a bye week and early on in the season. This year, I'm really excited about it because here's why. I think we start off against Georgia, and we're going to see a lot of things. We're going to see a lot of true potential for our Clemson football. Then we're going to see week 2 against App State, see them, how they overcome, how they feel those things, how they go through, how they progress over different changes, make the shifts they need to tap in, keep that momentum alive, or fix some problems. We'll get to see a lot, and then have a whole week to go through and dissect those first 2 games before we break into ACC play. I'm really excited about that. I think putting together that schedule is really, really beneficial for Clemson football. Love to see that. After that, we kick off our ACC play. So we're going 1-1 into ACC. We go open up again at home against NC State September 21st. I think we win that game. NC State's a great team. They always play us tough. They beat us a couple times recently. I think we win that game. I think, again, keeping up momentum, Cade playing his way, coming off that bye week, I think we'll win that. Then the next week, we are still home against Stanford. It's September 28th. Big game. First time playing the new ACC opponent in Stanford. I think we'll win that game. So right now we're 3-1. October 5th, this is probably this is a top 3 game of the season, right? The top 3 games are the game against Georgia, this game, and then how we end the season, which we'll get to a little bit. But overall, we go get Florida State on October 5th at Florida State. Get to see DJU play against Clemson again. I think that's going to be an electric game. That's got to be game. That's got to be the game, right? That's got to be where Pat McAfee and Kurt Herbstreit are going to be. That's got to be game day weekend location in Tallahassee. I think we win that game. Again, this is another one that it's up to how they progress. Is Florida State going to be the same team with the new quarterback? Is Clemson going to answer the holes that we've already talked about? I think if both things answer, Clemson comes out on top, and because they come out on top with that, that's the reason we didn't say Clemson for Georgia. That's why we're saying Clemson against Florida State. So we're going to say we win there, so that's 4-1. Next week we go at Wake Forest. That's a trap game. I think this game is one that is a kind of a trap game. You're coming off of a tough Florida State opponent. You're going to Wake Forest in the next game, and don't sleep on Wake Forest. They're developing a good program over there. They've been good recent years. I think that'll be a tough one, but I think we win it, so 5-1. The next week, we return home against Virginia. We go back home against Virginia, and I'll be honest, recent years, I've had a soft spot for Virginia. I've got a soft spot for them. Just because it's Tony Ellett, right? Tony Ellett left Clemson as our offensive coordinator to go and be the head coach of Virginia. He has not had great success, but hopefully they turn it around. But anyway, we go to Virginia. I think we win that game. After that, we have another opening day, October 26th, so that Halloween weekend type area. We have an open week there. Good time to take some breath. Good time to kind of focus, get our focus back on before we head back in and finish the season strong. November, we start play versus Louisville at home. I think we win there. Then the next week we go to one of the toughest places to play in the ACC in all sports, and that's Virginia Tech. We've talked about it on the Clemson Tiger Wire podcast back when we were over there. Talked about it a lot. Virginia Tech's a tough place to play, basketball and football. They're not an easy place to play. So they go over there. We play Virginia Tech there. I still think we win. I think it'll be closer than what we expect. The 16th, we're still on the road. We go to Pittsburgh. Play Pittsburgh there. I think we win that game again. They're hit or miss. Pittsburgh has really good season, really bad. I think we'll win that. Second to last game of the season, we play the Citadel at home. We usually don't schedule these kind of games later on in the season, but we did this year. We win that Citadel. If we lose that Citadel game, you will hear me lose my mind. Won't be a lot to be thankful for that Thanksgiving. Then we end the season, another of the top 3 games, Georgia, Florida State, and our last game against South Carolina. Coming back home, we need to get the dub. We need to go back and win that. We need to have a dominant win to keep right now we're winning the series. We won basketball. We won in football last year. We won in basketball this year. We won in baseball. We swept them 2 games this year in baseball. Let's go in and play dominant and win that game in their 30th at home at Clemson to finish that. And so overall, I think we win that game. I think we end the game 11-1, end the season 11-1, possibly 10-2, depending on that Florida State. Again, it depends on which teams show up, if Clemson can fill the holes, if DJU settles well. So I'm saying 11-1, maybe 10-2 against Florida State. But I feel confident us getting back to double-digit wins this year. I feel confident going back to that. And so that puts us, if we go that way, if we go 11-1, 10-2, we're in the ACC championship game against probably Florida State, maybe NC State. They're up there. There's some other teams that might make that, but it's probably going to be us versus Florida State in the ACC championship game. I see us winning that game as well. We tend to play well in the ACC championship game whenever we get there, so see us winning that, and then we're back in the college football playoffs. There's 12-team playoffs this year. Excited about that new format. Excited to see how that's going to go, but I definitely think with 12 teams, I think we're comfortably going to make that playoffs. If we play how we can, our defense is a top 5 defense in the nation, like they definitely can be. Cade progresses some. He gets some help. I definitely think we'll be there. So that's our thoughts. We think we go 11-1, maybe 10-2. But as you can hear, tough schedule. Tough schedule. In just a moment, 24/7, or at least their toughest schedules of football, and Clemson's on the list. We're going to break down all that and so much more in just a moment. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for your role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and free. Along with being credential media for Clemson and hosting the Locked On Clemson podcast, my career as a pastor. And as in ministry, I've used LinkedIn for 2 different things. I've used it, 1, when I was looking for my first job in ministry out of college, and 2, when I worked at a church. We used LinkedIn to try to bring in another pastor to fill a role. And both times, LinkedIn was simple to use and great at bridging the gap between employer and applicant. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats right now and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn constantly finding ways to make process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. We are here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. So we walked through our schedule. That's our opinion. That's our predictions for Clemson's schedule. 24/7, which if you're an everydayer, you know that's our favorite to use for predictions, for schedule outcomes, for recruits, for transfers, for all that kind of stuff. That's our favorite place to go to. I know for football, we don't have to use it for transfers a lot. Thanks, Dabo. Appreciate that. But anyway, we'll move on. We're not bitter. We are bitter, but we won't talk about it. But to 24/7 got out, and they posted posted their top 15 toughest schedules. So we're going to go through, we're going to look at those. At 15, the 15th hardest schedule in the nation, they have Wisconsin Badgers. They play 5 top 25 players. At number 14, they have UCLA, who plays 4. 13, they have Michigan, so reigning champs get a 13th hardest schedule in the nation, play 4 post-spring top 25 opponents from the 24/7. Number 12 is USC Trojans. They play 4. Number 11 is Kentucky Wildcats. They play 5. Number 10, and this is where Clemson is. 10, they have Clemson listed at 10th, the 10th hardest schedule to play in the college football college football schedule this year. The reasons they have that is because we play 5 opponents in 24/7's post-spring top 25. They have us on this list because we have a harder November. Our November schedule is really where it's harder. We open with Georgia and Atlanta that we talked about. We kick off ACC play a little earlier as our 3rd game at home against NC State. That's might be our toughest ACC game outside of Florida State. And then 2 weeks after that, we go to Florida State, right, and play there. It's going to be tough. We don't end the season. We don't end the season easy when with those tough 4 games in November, but we also have we have talent scheduled throughout. We start really hard with Georgia. 2 weeks later, we kick off ACC with one of the better teams in ACC and NC State. A couple weeks after that, we play Florida State with DJU. A couple weeks after that, we kick off in November. That's full of talent. That's full of opponents. And we end with South Carolina, which you never know how they're going to play. So they have us at 10th, which I think is a fair spot. I think this season's hard. As we kicked off the show today, Clemson football is going to have a great year. We've talked about it. We've predicted it. We're back in the college football playoffs. We're gonna fight for an ACC title. Go 11-1, maybe 10-2 in the regular season. We're gonna have a great year. Cade Klubnik's gonna take the steps he needs. Offensive line is gonna improve. Phil Maffa's gonna lead our running back class. Wide receivers are going to be electric, and Bryant Wesco is going to be our wide receiver 1 by the end of the year. Our defense will be a top 5 defense in the nation. We're proclaiming these things. We're naming it and proclaiming it right now on the Locked On Clemson podcast. But it's going to take a lot of work. It's not a cakewalk. In past years, ACC can kind of been easier in football. I don't think so, but that's the narrative. This year, we've got it tough. There's a tough schedule, a real schedule that is hard for Clemson to win, hard for Clemson to take. So that's why they have us at 10th. At 9, they have Alabama, who also plays 5 opponents in top 25. 8, they have Georgia Bulldogs. Again, 5 opponents, top 25. 7, they have Mississippi State with 6 opponents. Number 6 is the only other team in the ACC to be on the top 15 list, and that is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. If you noticed, we do not play them this year, so we're not on their schedule, but that doesn't mean they don't have a tough schedule. Here's who they play. They open the season with Florida State in Dublin, Ireland. Cool. Going to see ACC play across the board or across the water. That's awesome. Then they play Georgia State, Syracuse, VMI, Louisville, Duke. Then there's some talent there. There's some tough schedules there, but gosh, they end the season tough. They end the season at Carolina, against Notre Dame, at Virginia Tech, which tough, Miami, NC State, and Georgia. Tough. So Georgia Tech, deservingly the only other ACC on this list. Number 5 is Vanderbilt. Yeah, anybody in the SEC they've got a tough time. Vanderbilt's tough. They started off against Virginia Tech in the ACC, only ACC team they play, but they've got a tough schedule. Number 4 is Oklahoma Sooners. They do not play at ACC school, but they've got a tough one. They play 6 opponents in the top 25. Number 3 is South Carolina. They play 7 opponents in the top 25. I can't wait and I'm seeing. My favorite part about X is hearing bitter South Carolina fans. I've seen so many South Carolina fans be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get 10 wins." What? No, be realistic. You might make a bowl game. They play at Clemson as an ACC opponent, and that is the only one, but they got a tough opponent. They play at Kentucky, LSU, at Alabama, against Texas A&M, against Missouri, at Clemson. They've got a tough one. Definitely a challenge. Number 2 is Arkansas, another 7 opponents in top 25. And the hardest schedule, according to 24/7, and I would agree with, is found in none other than Miami or than Florida Gators. They've got a tough opponent. I've got a buddy of mine that is a Florida fan. I went and had dinner with him on Saturday, and we were talking through and we were talking about the schedule. And Man, they've got a tough one. They open the season with Miami at home, then they'll play Samford, Texas A&M. They go to Mississippi State, UCF, and then they entered a schedule. After those first couple games, they go at Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and end it with Florida State. That is what a schedule. Pity for Florida. I have some pity over there for Florida. But that is the top 15 toughest schedules in college football right now. Clemson's on that list. We've got a tough schedule. 10th in the nation hardest according to 24/7 Sports. We've got a hard schedule coming up. But with that doesn't mean it's impossible. That doesn't mean we can't win. All that means is we've got to put extra effort into it. All that means is we've really got to go through and show how talented we are and play to our potential, not make the dumb mistakes that we did last year, not fumble the ball 40 million times. But no, I think we'll be good. I'm excited about the schedule. I think we're going to prove ourselves. This is a year where we have a tough schedule, but we also have the potential and the possibility to really prove we can be the team that we know we are. So excited about that. After the break, we're going to come back and kick off another segment or continue another segment of our Momentum Mondays, talking about the momentum that's happening in Clemson sports right now. We'll be back in just a minute.
Guess what, guys? It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Guess what? The NBA playoffs are here. Anthony Edwards is absolutely killing it. And plus, if you're into the NHL, we got some slap shots you can bet on. The Carolina Hurricanes are in the second round right now. So I need you to go to that bad boy and check it out. Because here's what new customers can get. $150. Yes, you heard that correctly. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Let me repeat that. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And I'm telling you, you can bet on anything from the spreads, the money lines, player props, and much, much more. I'm telling you, $150, oh my God, you can win some money. All you got to do is pay attention and go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. The website is FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. That was Jarvis Davis over with Locked On Atlanta Sports, bringing that sponsor for the show. But yeah, so now it's time for us to end the episode how we do every single Monday with our Monday Momentum Mondays. So what that is we go through, and if you're an everyday listener, you know this, but if not, let me explain it. We go through and we look at the certain things that happen either over the weekend or in recent news that's bringing in a new momentum to Clemson sports. So far, we've seen a lot of positive. We've seen a lot of uptick in momentum. Unfortunately, today, it's not always good. Sometimes it is not always good momentum on these Momentum Mondays, and that's the case for today. On the diamond, we don't have the biggest momentum going right now. On the diamond, we really don't have the biggest happenings, the biggest excitements, the biggest things going well for us, both baseball and softball. Baseball started the season hotter than anybody in the nation almost. They started 27-3. Since then, though, they've gone 10-10. 10-10 after 27-3. We now sit 37-13, still in first in the Atlantic, but UNC has the #1 seed overall in the ACC. Hopefully we can take that back. But this weekend, we got swept by Wake Forest, which we're going to break through in a second. Let's just go through our recent schedule. So in the last 20 games, remember, 27-3 in the first 30 games. The last 20 games, here's how it went. So we finished the game, our first game, the last 20. We finished the series sweep against Notre Dame. We went to USC Upstate and we lost at Clemson. We went to Clemson. We were home, lost to USC Upstate. That started the losing streak. We then stayed at home, played a 3-game series against NC State, lost 2 of those. We won Sundays, but lost 2 of those. Beat Charlotte, was a good game. Went and played still at home. Went 2-3 against Pittsburgh in a weekend series. Played Georgia in a midweek, lost in 15 innings, lost 3-4. That was a heartbreaker. Went to Louisville and went 2-3. One of those we run rolled them, so that was a good game. Then we stayed at home, went back at home for a weekend series, won 2 out of 3 against Georgia Tech. So far, it's like, okay, where did it go wrong? Well, we beat Charlotte, and then this weekend we got swept by Wake Forest. gosh, this weekend was heartbreaking. It was one of those things that it was like, we can really see what this team's going to look like in March or in the baseball tournament. What's this team's going to look like as we get to regionals and college playoffs and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's just, gosh, it hurt. It was upsetting. Friday, we lost the heartbreaker 2-4. Saturday, it looked like for a moment we were going to win, and it didn't. We lost 5-8. And then Sunday, my gosh, Sunday was just a pity party. We got run ruled, lost 13-3 in that game. It was heartbreaking. It was rough. Clemson right now does not have great momentum on the baseball field. Our biggest problem right now, and if you are any kind of Clemson Twitter, you know this because everyone talks about it. Our biggest problems right now is defensively, our bullpen, it hurts. But for the most part, our starters are doing well. For the most part, our starters are throwing the ball really well. Aiden Canuck, gosh, should be freshman of the year, playing really well. But other than that, our bullpen's really hurting us, giving up a lot of runs, not being able to capitalize on wins or keep it within the close game. Really, bullpens have been giving up a lot of scores, a lot of runs recently. We end the season with we should go 4-0 to end the season. We have 4 games left spanning from now. They play Tuesday and then they play next weekend. We should be able to win and go 4-0. We play Tuesday at Coastal Carolina. That's a good team. Coastal Carolina's a good team. Clemson has easily the potential to win that game, so we should win that. And then we end it with a 3-game series at home against Boston College. We play Thursday night. We got a weird Thursday night game, play Friday night, and play Saturday at lunch. So should go 4-0 to end the season. Hopefully we can overcome that momentum right there. But even softball is still not, they're not as bad momentum right now as baseball, but they still don't have the best. They finished the regular season 34-17. They won 15 they went 15-9 in the ACC. So overall good there. But they played in the ACC tournament last week, and they started off well in the quarterfinals. We played Virginia. It was hosted at Duke, which we'll talk about that in a second, but it was hosted at Duke Stadium. We beat Virginia 8-1. Then we played Duke at home in the semifinals. We lost in the 10th inning, 3-4 on a heartbreaker. So losing that game, that doesn't bring momentum, right? You push it to extra innings against Duke, a good program, a good team at their home site, which, why is it at their home site? But you lose in extra innings, that kind of kills momentum. Hopefully that doesn't overcome them too much. This Friday, they kick off their playoffs. They kick off the regional matchups for softball as we are in Tuscaloosa's regional. Alabama's hosting a regional. Honestly, that alone, the fact that we're a 2 seed is bad momentum. The past 2 years, Clemson hosted a regional, and so the fact that we're not hosting one this year, that kind of hurts, right? We want to be doing that, but we're the 2 seed. Bama plays USC Upstate. Clemson plays Southeastern Louisiana on Friday, the 17th. So we're excited about that. Hopefully they can kick this momentum. Overall, for this Monday momentum, we need baseball to start playing well, especially into the season before the regionals. Keep where we can host a regional. And then we need softball to kick off Friday. We need them to win Friday and be able to make it through to the next round rather than losing in a regional. So with all that being said, though, that is going to wrap up this edition for the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, tomorrow's episode, we're going to dive into some more Clemson sports, so make sure you join us for that. Let me know your thoughts on today's episode, though. Let us know your thoughts on what we talked about. What's your prediction for our football? I want to hear how many games you think we win. Drop it in the comments on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter. Send us an email if you want. And let us know your thoughts, where you think we'll finish, and you think our overall record will be. Do you agree with me? Think we go 11-1? Maybe you're a little pessimistic. Maybe you have a little bit more downer of an outlook. Maybe you think 9-3 or something like that. Let us know. Hit us up with all that. I'd love to hear feedback about everything we talked about. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcast at, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every day we can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you tomorrow in the next episode. And until then, keep that Tiger Pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.